Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy SimplyFoodByTy, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how I make my Sprite pound cake. Now, before I jump too far into all of the ingredients, there's a few things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned. One of the most important things is that you want to make sure that you're using pure vanilla extract. That's key number one. The next thing is that we want to make sure that the butter, the eggs, the buttermilk, and the can of Sprite is all at room temperature. That is very, very, very important. So let's jump on into the video, and then I'll go ahead and let you guys know exactly what the measurements are. So the first thing we're going to work on are the dry ingredients. So what we have right here is 3 cups of white granulated sugar. We're also going to be adding in 3 sticks of butter. Now, of course, it might look like I'm adding in more, but you know how sometimes they have those half sticks? That's what I'm using. And you want to make sure that you cream that together as best as you possibly can. Now, just so you guys know, you can absolutely do this by fork. I've done it before, so do not feel like you have to have a hand mixer in order for this to work, because that's just not the case. We're going to be adding in 5 eggs. Now, I like to do it one by one. That's just to make sure that everything is being nicely mixed in, completely together. But like I said, one of the things that is very, very important is that y'all want to make sure that all of this stuff is at the same temperature. And honestly, y'all, that's kind of the gist when it comes to any type of baking in particular, especially cakes. You want to make sure that all of the ingredients are at the same temperature so that it doesn't seize, so that you don't have to worry about when it goes into the oven, is it going to adjust anything? I promise you, just make sure it's all at room temperature. It'll make your life a whole heck of a lot easier, especially when it comes to the butter. Never ever melt the butter, but at least have it sitting out on the counter. If your house, runs cold, have it sitting out for a couple of days so that that butter can get really, really soft. It just makes it easier for you. And especially if you don't have a hand mixer, that'll definitely make the biggest difference if the butter is at room temperature. And the butter was unsalted. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, and no, it is not Kerrygold. So now that we have our butter, our eggs, and our sugar pretty much looking pretty good, like I said, every now and then make sure you scrape it down the side just to give it a check to make sure that everything's, good to go. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to get ready to start adding in a few other things. Now, one thing that I will say is make sure you guys have your oven preheated at 325 degrees. Just go on ahead and get that ready, honey. Just have that ready. Now, I'm going to be adding in a 3.4 ounce package of French vanilla instant pudding. Keyword, instant pudding, okay? Don't get the kind you have to cook, get instant pudding. As I mentioned earlier, you guys know that I'm a really big stickler about using a high quality vanilla. I've added in roughly about a tablespoon, and I'm going to be adding in probably about a teaspoon to about a teaspoon and a half of this lemon extract. If you want more lemon, by all means. Now this lime juice, I'm going to be adding in roughly, I say honestly, maybe about a half a tablespoon, if that, to be honest. You can use a fresh lime if you want. You can also use the zest of a lime, but I had that handy, so that's why I used it. Now, one of the things that me and my girl Soulful Tea have in common is that we love adding in instant pudding into our cakes. It's something that a lot of people, I feel like, are starting to catch on to do, but I also know that she does it as well. So I promise you, it makes the biggest difference. It makes your cake extremely, extremely moist, nice and tender, and it will not dry out. So don't skip that step, but just make sure that the pudding says instant, okay? Make sure it says instant. That's very, very important. So now what we're going to do, once again, scraping down those sides, making sure that we have everything mixed in. As you can see, it looks really, really nice and smooth right now. So we're doing good at the moment. We're doing good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Yes, buttermilk, okay? And we're going to add in 1 cup of Sprite. Of course, if you would like, you can use 7-Up. I just love Sprite, and that's also what we had on hand. So that's what I preferred to use. Like I said, once again, you can use whatever you would like. I wouldn't use Sierra Mist, though. I've tried it with Sierra Mist, and it didn't do anything for me. It really didn't. So yeah, I would stick with either a 7-Up or stick with the Sprite. But honey, look, you do what you got to do. These is hard times out here. You get what you get. And honestly, if you're not a big fan of, the Sprite or the 7-Up or whatever the case may be, you don't have to put it in there. Do what you want. So now we're going to start adding in the dry ingredients. So what we're adding in right now is 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, if you want, you can also use cake flour. Honestly, I don't really remember if I used my cake flour or if I used all-purpose flour. But what I do know for a fact is that you definitely want to make sure that you are putting it in little by little so that you don't have to overmix, okay? That is probably one of the most important things about making a pound cake is that you do not overmix it. If you do, it is going to come out hard as a brick. It is going to be completely dried out, and you really, really don't want that. So, just make sure that you are putting it in little by little. And honestly, if you feel like you're worried that the hand mixer, might overmix it, or your stand mixer, you can also use a wooden spoon. That's completely fine as well. But, I'm using a hand mixer because it just kind of speeds up the process. But I did add in just, little by little. And as you can see, it's coming together. It's a pretty thick batter for the most part. It's not really meant to be incredibly loose. You're going to be using just a regular basic size bundt pan. If you have one that is non-stick, that is great. Either way, we're still going to treat the pan because, the last thing you want is to go through all of this trouble on making this cake and then it gets stuck in the pan. But I'm going to tell y'all my secret trick, what I've been using, and literally it has not failed me not one time. And it also helps prevent a big unnecessary mess, to be honest with you. So now that this is looking good, we're going to stop mixing that. Just scrape down the sides a few more times. This should make sure that everything is completely incorporated. But beyond that, you don't need to keep mixing, okay? So now I want to talk to you guys about this particular item that I've been using when it comes to baking. It is Pam's Perfect Release. You guys, this stuff is made with flour, so you don't have to be adding the spray and also flouring it and also buttering it. Like you don't have to go through any of that. If you just buy the Pam Perfect Release, that is all you need. You don't have to put flour. You don't have to do any of that. It comes out perfect every single time. And that's because that particular brand of the Pam is made with flour. So it's specifically to help for people who are baking. Now you want to put this in, little by little. It's no real true method on how to put this in. But you do want to try to make sure that it is somewhat even, just so that, one side of your cake don't come out looking real high than the other. And then I just take a little spoon and I just smooth it over on the top, and then I pop it in the oven at 325. You want to make sure that you give the pan a few, plops down on the counter just to get out any air pockets. Pop this in the oven at 325. I say roughly anywhere from about an hour to an hour and 15. Keep an eye on it. Your oven better than anybody else. And baby, it is going to come out divine and delicious. Your family is going to absolutely love this pound cake. Look, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you are new to my channel, welcome to Simply Food by TY. If you're one of my returning subscribers, y'all babies know I love y'all so much. And as always, y'all stay cute and take care. Bye, guys.
In the kitchen. Simply Food by TY. We hope that you enjoyed it. Simply Food by TY. If you haven't took the time, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Simply Food by TY.